On behalf of all of us at Gabelli, I would like to welcome you to our third PFAS conference. My name is Rosemarie Morbelli. Wayne Pinsent and I follow the specialty chemicals industry, and we will be introducing the forever chemicals. Several of our colleagues will also be participating in today's event. Tony Bancroft follows the waste management industry. Tim Winter oversees the utilities industry, and Rebecca Stern focuses on the environmental health sector. Before we review the agenda and begin with the company's presentation, I will go over PFAS characteristics, their impact on their environment. So what are PFAS? They are man-made chemicals used in various industrial applications as well as consumer products due to their resistance to water, oil, grease, and heat. As they do not easily degrade in the environment, they are referred to as forever chemicals. And as we now know, they have been linked to several health issues. Here are a few examples of where we find PFAS. And as you can see, they are in many items we use daily. The history of PFAS started in the late 1930s when the chemicals were invented as the main ingredient for non-stick and waterproofing coatings. They were first used to protect military equipment from the elements. The molecules consist of a chain of carbon atoms and 2 to 3 atoms of fluorine for each carbon. Because the carbon-fluorine bond is one of the strongest, these chemicals do not degrade easily in the environment and are referred to as forever chemicals, as I already mentioned. First manufactured by 3M, industrial usage began really in the 1940s when DuPont introduced them as Teflon for non-cookware. Their development increased in the late 1960s after a deadly fire aboard a US aircraft Navy carrier killed about 100 individuals. As a result, they soon became used in products such as firefighting foam, which is one of the main areas on which the EPA is currently focused due to their extensive use at military bases, airports, and firefighting activities. In addition to their oil stain resistance and waterproofing properties have resulted as their widespread use. They are in water-resistant textiles, stain-resistant furniture, carpets, as well as in paints and cosmetics, among other consumer applications. They are also found in packaging used by fast food restaurants, as well as in sandwich wraps, pizza boxes, and other packaging for greasy food. As you can see in this slide, PFAS can originate from multiple sources, such as manufacturing facilities, firefighting activities, airports, landfills, farmland using sludge as a cheaper fertilizer, and water treatment plants. The firefighting foams in particular seep into the ground and eventually reach the water table. They can also be carried to surface water, such as rivers and lakes, by rain. Most of the PFAS-containing items eventually end up in landfills, from which they may leach into the ground and, as I just mentioned, into the water table. Note that there are 10 to 15,000 carbon fluorine PFAS with each different properties and applications. These are based on the number of carbon and fluorine atoms, as well as the presence of additional components. Studies show that they have found their way into our environment, drinking water, food supply, and into our bodies. So while PFAS are a broad group of thousands of chemicals, at this time, only a handful of them have been closely studied and linked to health issues. For example, studies have found that approximately 98% of Americans tested have PFAS in their bloodstream. The chemicals may enter the food chain in various ways. Then, over time, they gradually accumulate into our bodies. The most common and dangerous ones are PFOAs and PFAS. These have been extensively studied, especially due to their presence in drinking water. They have been linked with kidney and testicular cancers, a lower immune system, thyroid disease, high cholesterol, and low birth weight in babies, to name a few. PFAS have also been detected in cow's milk, animal feed, and cereals, among other categories. This is a result of spreading sewage sludge from wastewater treatment plants on fields as a form of cheap biosolid fertilizer. Unfortunately, the sludge contains dangerous substances such as heavy metals and PFAS. So now, in addition to the known consumer and industrial applications already mentioned, the chemicals have found their way into our food supply via crop products, dairy, and livestock. As a result, PFAS above acceptable levels have been found in beef and milk from farms located in several states. The amount of contamination is extensive, persistent, and toxic at very low level. In 2006, the industry agreed to phase out C8, first out of carpets, followed by paper, and more recently out of textile. But they are still on hard surfaces and construction materials such as grout and fiberboard. In addition, some have been replaced by shorter carbon chains, which in the future may show that they have similar negative impact. So as shown in these slides from Audubon's recent Spring 2025 magazine, PFAS have made their way into the wild. The dark blue categories are the legacy PFAS, which are being regulated. In red are the new larger molecules, which are now under more scrutiny. The slide maybe is difficult to read, so I will just point out a few affected species. PFAS have been found in the blood of polar bears, seals, dolphins, Adelie penguins, and in many birds and fish, to name a few. Some of these, such as the common carp, bass, trout, and Atlantic salmon, for example, are part of our food chain. My colleague Wayne Pinsent will now bring us up to date on where we stand. He will talk about recent articles in the news, regulations, and legal issues, as well as existing and potential solutions. Wayne?
Thanks, Rosemarie. Good morning, everyone. I'm Wayne Pinsent. I cover specialty chemicals alongside Rosemarie. So where do we stand today? Since we've started hosting this symposium, PFAS has remained in the headlines, reminding us of its ubiquity in the environment. We can't see it, but it's all around us, and regulators are zoning in. We discussed last year the U.S. Geological Survey, which found 45% of samples of the country's tap water had levels higher than proposed EPA regulations. This has even been recently revised slightly higher, finding another 7 million Americans impacted, or almost exactly half of the country having their drinking water affected by PFAS. We've seen recent settlements with large PFAS producers, 3M for $10.3 billion settling with U.S. water systems, DuPont and its spin-offs Chemours and Corteva settling for $1.2 billion, and more recently we've seen a state settlement between DuPont, Chemours, and Corteva with the state of New Jersey for $2 billion over 25 years. These settlements will help offset some of the costs of water utilities to remediate and put in solutions, and for environmental remediation. In 2024, we had what we thought was to be the final EPA standards for drinking water, and the designation as hazardous substances. And the big news this past year was some changes to those standards and the delay in implementation, with the EPA making it clear that PFAS is still a major focus. The 2024 actions were the first of its kind. They set standards to limit PFOA and PFOS to 4 parts per trillion, as well as standards for 4 other PFAS compounds or mixtures, with requirements for water utilities to implement solutions by 2029. In May of this year, the new administration announced that it would maintain the stringent 4 parts per trillion limits on PFOA and PFOS, which notably is the lowest detectable amounts. But it announced that it was going to reconsider prior proposed limits on the other PFAS compounds and delay implementation by 2 years to 2031. This followed legal challenges to the EPA on those rulings and was done to provide some more flexibility to water utilities for implementation. But however it plays out, we expect significant remediation efforts to come, including compliance with separate state regulations. So moving forward, we've been highly focused on all aspects of PFAS here at Gabelli for some time now. As mentioned, this is our 3rd PFAS symposium. You'll see many of my colleagues today that cover PFAS from all different angles. We put out an updated 2025 PFAS white paper last week that'll be available in the handouts here and on our website. And importantly, what we want to cover is that solutions are coming. As mentioned in the white paper, there are currently several technologies capable of removing PFAS from the environment. They include activated carbon, which absorbs pollutants from a stream of water going through a carbon column, membrane filtration, which uses either nanofiltration or reverse osmosis, and ion exchange, where a specialty resin filters out and holds on to the contaminants. Today we'll hear about those technologies as well as supercritical water oxidation, or SCWO, Fluorosorb, which is being introduced by Minerals Technologies, and Defluoro from ACOM. Here you can see the logos of all our great participants here today. We'll hear from specialty mineral and remediation companies that have and are introducing those technologies I mentioned, a water utility focused on adapting to the new standards, waste companies involved in PFAS collection and destruction, as well as representatives from the Maryland Department of Environment and the National Association of Water Companies. So after this intro, we're going to hear from 374 Water, followed by private company BP Polymers, then ARC Inc., H2O America, formerly known as SJW, Minerals Technologies, then the National Association of Water Companies will lead us into our brief lunch break. Then we'll hear from Zach Schaefer from the Maryland Department of the Environment, who was here last year with us as a member of the EPA. Then we'll hear from Axine Water Technologies, ACOM, followed by BioLargo. And then we'll finish off the day with Adoro Clean Technologies, Regenesis, and Birchtech Corp. And with that, we're looking forward to starting an exciting day.
Tony Bancroft and Timothy Winter, CFA, are portfolio managers. Wayne Pinsent, CFA, is Director of Research and Research Analyst, and Rosemarie Morbelli, CFA, and Dr. Rebecca Stern, PhD, are Research Analysts at Gabelli Funds. The above webcast is a recording from the 3rd Annual PFAS Symposium, which occurred on September 17, 2025. GAMCO is providing these links as a matter of general information. We do not intend for these links to be a complete description of any security or company, nor is it a research report with respect to any of the companies mentioned herein. As of June 30, 2025, affiliates of GAMCO Investors Incorporated beneficially owned 1.1% of Minerals Technologies and less than 1% of all other companies mentioned. The analyst's views are subject to change at any time based on market and other conditions. The information in this posting represents the opinions of the analyst and is not intended to be a forecast of future events, a guarantee of future results, or investment advice. Views expressed are those of the analyst and may differ from those of other GAMCO officers, analysts, other employees, or of the firm as a whole. Because the investment personnel at GAMCO and our affiliates make individual investment decisions with respect to the client accounts that they manage, these accounts may have transactions inconsistent with the information contained in this posting. Certain GAMCO personnel may know the substance of the posting prior to its posting. This webcast is not an offer to sell any security, nor is it a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Stocks are subject to market, economic and business risks that cause their prices to fluctuate. When you sell shares, they may be worth less than what you paid for them. For more information, a prospectus, or summary prospectus, visit our website at www.gabelli.com or call 800 Gabelli 800 422 3554 914 921 5100 fax 914 921 5118 info@gabelli.com.